Hey gang, Amasil here. As you can see in this game, I'm playing the Hatsuharu, Ranger, and Rocket, which you will see as Flagstaff 2016 here in game, are both playing New Mexico. Now, why am I doing a video on Hatsuharu? Well, it occurs to me, well, a couple things occurred to me. One, I lost 3 karma in this game, which I know karma doesn't mean anything, but in this game I think it actually kind of was an odd form of applause. You'll be able to deduce why later on. I don't want to give anything away, but it also occurred to me that I haven't been featuring lower tiered ships very often, so I thought, okay, well, this is a good opportunity for me to do that, and also to illustrate that sometimes when it would be easy to maybe throw in the towel, it's best to just stay focused on what you can do to potentially turn things around, with the understanding that that's not always going to be possible, and that sometimes all it takes is for somebody to stop
Enemy force sighted on the horizon.
the ability of the enemy team to continue to rack up points by sitting in their cap for a minute or two. So, with that said, you'll see that Ranger and Rocket are both moving center and keeping their guns trained north of their position. Meanwhile, I, in the Hatsuharu, am headed out to try and spot targets for them and for the rest of my team. In particular, because the Hatsuharu has a pretty decent detection radius, which you can see there on the minimap is 5.8 kilometers. I'm hoping to be able to spot enemy DDs if there are any. Now you can see the Gepard is Delta 5, the enemy Gepard, and that's really probably the biggest threat to my ship, because that French destroyer has the rapid reload, and having that ship and having played it, I know that if you catch something like a Hatsuharu out in open water using that rapid reload, you can put a lot of shells into an enemy DD in a very short period of time. Now, I dropped torpedoes on the Texas there in the hope that he would continue to sail straight. You'll see here in a second that the little cluster of friendly ships southwest of my position were enough to dissuade the Texas, and he's going to turn around. So at this point I was mentioning to Ranger and Rocket that, dang man, I no sooner dropped my torpedoes than he started to turn. Yeah, you can see he's headed for the hills. Alright, so now I'm talking about with Rocket and Ranger about the Graf Spee, and that he seemed to be pushing in, but it looks like he's going to stop at the edge of this island that he's kind of nosing into right now. Why did I ping those guys? Well, they're kind of all sitting there behind the island, and I understand they don't want to get hit by the Texas, but I'm really hoping they're going to push around that corner and be able to work on the Graf Spee, because his hydro and his torpedo threat are significant. And while the Graf Spee has terrible dispersion and only 6 guns, those torpedoes, they are definitely a worry. Not necessarily so much for me in this game in the Hatsuharu, but if they don't take care of him, eventually he might get an opportunity to get close enough to make those torpedoes work for him. So, fortunately, the team starts, as you can see, to work on Graf Spee to bully him, I guess, into reversing. Now I'm going to try get some torpedoes on him, but he does a really good job of, well, it is maneuvering. I mean, he's maneuvering in reverse, which is, he's not moving very fast, but he does a really good job of maneuvering in order to avoid torpedo strikes. So, end up ultimately being pretty ineffective against the Grashbay. Now you can see that he's swung his tail to starboard, and he's going to try and roll around behind that second island up there. And it's around this time that I'm, in the conversation that we're having on, we were on Mumble together. When I'm saying, okay, looks like we've got a little bit of a gap along the 2 and 3 line. We've got one Congo on the map edge who is in trouble. We've got another Congo that's just outside the edge of our cap, and he's in full flight and doesn't have, 15,000 hit points left. He's not doing well, and our Gnevny was up there in the corner facing Gepard, Leander, Montecuccoli, and Icarus there, and he didn't have much of a chance. So I'm headed back this way to try and slow down their advance, because all those ships that were up in that corner, Gepard, Leander, Montecuccoli, and then really 2 Fuzos, are probably going to push down this side following the Icarus. My hope here was that the Congo that is right here, 2 kilometers away, would fall back and heal up, and that the Congo over on the 1 line would just manage to survive. With Icarus chasing him, it's a pretty sure bet that he's going to be running away from torpedoes. And speaking of torpedoes, obviously I'm not having a lot of success landing torpedoes, at least thus far in the game. And that's just part of playing a torpedo boat. You've got really good range on the torpedoes in the Hatsuharu, and the ability to dev strike even full health battleships if you manage to land the majority of your torpedoes. The team that we were playing against, they did, in my opinion, a really good job of making it difficult for me to land those torpedoes. And as a DD main, I can say that that I was very glad to see that kind of go down. Any battleship player who maneuvers, changes course on a intermittent basis and alters their speed, is a very difficult target to hit with torpedoes. Because as you can see, I launched those torpedoes quite some time ago, and they're just now reaching the area where the Koenig would have been. So what am I doing here? Well, I'm waiting to see where the Gepard is going to go. I'm trying to get some idea of whether he's going to come inside or whether he was going to go outside, and he went in. So I went ahead and put some shots out on him.
Smoke generator started.
And we've got Leander here who can keep him spotted. So I went ahead and smoked up.
Torpedoes to starboard.
And our Leander, while he definitely had the right idea, unfortunately got caught in a well-placed torpedo spread, and there just wasn't anywhere for him to go. But with nothing left to shoot at, I'll leave the smoke. Montecuccoli has range 12. I think range 12 torpedoes. I don't want to sit in the smoke and wait for the torpedoes. Leander also has torpedoes with decent range. So I'm going to reposition. I'm just going to work on trying to slow down their advance. You'll see that Rocket and Reger have repositioned. They've moved back to this side. They've moved their guns to the starboard side of their ships. And they are also working on slowing down the advance of the red zone this side of the map. Now I'm angling to try and allow myself maneuvering room should the Leander's torpedoes show up here. And we're hoping that the Königsberg and Montecuccoli on our team down in the far corner of the map, will be able to handle, the cruiser and the New York. But that just didn't work out. So at this point, we are down 5 ships. The enemy team is down 4 ships, and we are down 85 points or so. Still anybody's game, but the 3 of us were talking about the red team does look to have a bit of an advantage. Our Congo is sitting south of that island, kind of center of the map, just next to our
Engine boost
cap. He doesn't have many hit points and doesn't seem to be really engaging a whole lot, or at least not right now. The Congo that's down here with the 3 of us, he's got his guns working constantly, but we've got potentially a Texas and a New York that can bring guns to bear on really the only yay! I landed a torpedo. The only friendly ship on the other side of the map. I misjudged that shot. When I was a kid, I had they called it a pop gun, just using the island to avoid the Leander shells there. And it was just air pressure, and you stuck a cork in the end of the barrel and pulled the trigger, and the cork would come flying out. And that's what the guns on the Hatsuharu were like. So, just a very brief example there of how to take advantage of island cover. Icarus is right there. I do have smoke available, so I'm going to go ahead and use it.
Smoke generator started.
I have to decide what to do here. I've got the Montecuccoli potentially
Smoke screen set.
pushing south, knowing that I'm the only one here,
Engine boost deactivated.
and it's crossing my mind at this point that he might be thinking, okay, I'll just go and run down there and take advantage of the smoke that the Hatsuharu put down, and I can fire from that smoke at the enemy ships. I don't know that that's going to happen, but that's why I'm moving where I'm moving. Because if that is the choice that he made, I wanted to be able to spot him. Nope. He went the other way, so I'm immediately going to head for a position to prevent the enemy from being able to flank. And then I realize, okay, the enemy DD was sunk, so I don't have to worry about that threat anymore. So at this point, I can move to put myself in a position to put torpedoes on battleships. And yeah, those are definitely from the Montecuccoli. And you saw that it just ran right through my smoke, which is one more reason to avoid sitting in your smoke when there's any kind of torpedo boat that could throw torpedoes your way. I see that all the time, and I can't tell you how deadly it can be for you to smoke up and sit. I see it, and you've probably seen it too. You can see friendlies they'll run into a cap, and then they'll sit with their ship at a 90-degree angle to the approach of the enemy in their smoke. And what that does is it creates the largest possible surface area for an enemy torpedo to hit. So my advice is, anytime it's possible, what you want to do is, the term that a lot of ICOPs will use is pencil up, and that's Spec Op Pride, who's I still consider him our tactical officer, although he's currently playing another game. That's how he describes creating the smallest amount of surface area for the enemy to hit. So what I advise, and you'll see really great players like Flambas, who's a fantastic DD player, much better than I, do exactly what I'm talking about here. He will just move up close to the cap and then maybe back into the cap, so that only the stern of the ship is facing the potential approach, or likely approach of enemy torpedoes. And that allows you to, well, it allows you two things. It allows you to maneuver to avoid incoming torpedoes by accelerating away from them, because you can accelerate much more effectively than you can reverse. And you can also, of course, make use of your, and Texas is definitely going to get away from those torpedoes. And you can also accelerate away from any DDs that happen to be pushing you. You get it on higher tiers, and you get both the the British line of DDs with their hydro, and then the German line with their much longer range hydro, which can be devastating, particularly for the Japanese destroyers if they are caught sitting still in their smoke, especially if they are nose into the enemy or broadside to the enemy while they're sitting there in the smoke. So, a lot of words to say, don't do that. Okay, so there I threw some torps out for the Fuso. I also threw out some torps for the Montecuccioli, hoping
Engine boost deactivated.
that maybe I could catch both of them. Okay, so you'll notice, I'm sure, that it's basically just ICOP left on the map against 5 enemy ships, and that we are down almost 200 points. So at this point, I am saying to Rocket and Reger, okay guys, I'm going to go into their cap, and the reason I'm saying that is I want to stop their points from accumulating. And as you can see, I finally had a bit of luck and landed a couple of torpedo shots. Now, I've pinged the Montecuccioli on the enemy team, and I've asked Reger and Rocket if they can just hold their fire in the hope that they can get a shot on that guy if he pushes up toward me. It's a pretty fast ship, and I want to avoid him running me down, because if he does, despite the fact that he has a 15-second reload, if he catches me out in this ship, there's no way I'll be able to stop him short of a lucky torpedo strike. And I'll have a Fuso north of me with lots of guns. So I'm just, you look at the score, 503, we're down 10 points. All I have to do is get in their cap long enough to flip that points total, because their points are going to stop accruing, and we will continue to accrue points. You look at my current damage total, 30,000. It's nothing. Really, really nothing. But what have I done in this game? Well, I've tried to spot, sometimes more effectively than others. I've managed to finish off 3 damaged ships, and you can see now it's a tie score. The next time the counter clicks over, we will take the lead. And there it is. I am diligently maneuvering to avoid being spotted by Fuso. I see that he's beginning to swing his ship around to the south, so I am moving south toward the south end of the cap. And at this point, as long as I don't die, and as long as Reger and Rocket stay alive, which Reger just took a big shot from New York, but New York has terrible dispersion, so the chance of that happening again is probably not good. As long as I don't die up here, we've pretty much got this thing in the bag. Managed to land a couple more torpedoes. We're down to 44 seconds left in the game. And Fuso's heading this way. So I can safely leave the cap at this point. I'll make use of my smoke here in a second, just to make sure that there's no chance that he manages a lucky shot on me. But this is just icing on the cake. We've already got the game won as long as nobody gets sunk. So, I hope that there was something here that you can make use of if you're playing DDs or maybe new to DDs. Sometimes it's not about sinking the enemy as much as, and here comes my smoke, as it is
Smoke generator started.
playing the points game, which won us this game. Thanks a lot for watching. Really appreciate it. See you next time.